Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sincere from the Standard 81 podcast, and I am back again with another video. But before we get started, let's go ahead and take that quick 30-second break, and I will be back with you here in 3, 2, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are ready to get things started. Today's topic is stop looking for perfection. Stop looking for perfection. But before I get into this any further, go ahead and hit that like button if you are just not coming in. I'd appreciate it so much. And hey, look, if you're just a hater or you don't like what I'm doing, go ahead and hit that dislike. Either way, it's engagement for me, and I appreciate it. Either way it goes. Secondly, if you haven't subscribed and you love what I'm doing, go ahead and subscribe, as well as share this with somebody you think needs to hear it, and comment down below. Let me know what you think on the topic. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Stop looking for perfection. This world seems to be obsessed with perfection. This world seems to be obsessed with perfection. My question is why? Because we know from the jump, none of us is perfect. This world is very imperfect, and things that are happening in this world today are showing us that. But yet and still, we keep on striving for it like perfection is something obtainable. Sorry, you guys, I wanted to finish off my coffee before it got cold. But here's the thing. If it's attainable in whatever format, why hasn't anybody reached perfection? Right? Whether it be through some type of religion, whether it be through political political alliances, whether it be through relationships, whatever the case may be, how come people are not reaching perfection? And I'm gonna tell you why they haven't reached perfection, because perfection is unattainable on this earth as we are. And I know what you're about to say. You're about to say, hey, Sincere, you about to go off into a religious tangent. Well, just to let you know, FYI, I am a Christian, and I am going to come at everything from a Christian perspective because that is the way I live. But I do also try to come from this from a realistic standpoint, as I know that everybody here and everybody that gets on YouTube and maybe subscribe to my podcast is not a Christian. So I want to come from it from this perspective. As much as we may try, part of what makes us thankful, grateful, and treasure things is the lack of perfection. You say, what? The lack of perfection? How does that even make sense? Well, here's how it makes sense. You are going to value and treasure something more that you had to work hard for and attain in order to get, or in order to um, finally um, obtain, rather than something that is in complete perfection and you just happen to get it. I think that's part of the reason. I think that's part of the reason it's never been obtainable here. Now, if you want to look at it from a biblical perspective, I'll give you let's look at Genesis, right? The Garden of Eden. Here it is. God creates a perfect heaven and earth, right? And when I say heaven, I mean the expanse in the sky. The sun, moon, clouds, stars, all that good stuff. That's what I'm talking about. He creates it perfect. He puts trees in there for everything, and then he creates people, gives them free will, and he says, "Look, I'm asking you to do one simple thing. Don't eat of the tree of the garden in the middle of the garden, which is the tree of knowledge and the tree of good and evil." And what do we do? In the middle of perfection, with only two rules to guide our lives, we allow ourselves to be conflicted and overwhelmingly mesmerized by the thought of attaining more, even though we were in the midst of perfection. At the time God created the earth, there was no sin. There was no craziness that's going on. There was none of that. It was just God, men, and God, men, and everything else. And that's all there was. But now we really are looking to we are really looking to try to somehow replicate what was already there and has been destroyed. Now remember, the earth that God had in the beginning was destroyed. I'm talking about the Adam and Eve earth, because that was the flood, right? Or whatever. And now we are living in a newly rebuilt earth. And we now more so than ever, we have accommodations and things that can help set our lives into a sort of ease and a way of thinking that is beyond anything that anybody else could imagine, but yet we're still searching for perfection. We are still searching for what we had before. We are still searching and hoping to attain something that is unreachable. The question becomes why? Now, I've already answered that a little bit, but in order to find out, sometimes in order to find out the reason why people do things, is to look at the definition of the word of the thing that they're trying to attain. Now, the root word imperfection is perfect. So I'm going to look up the word perfect, and I'm going to read it off as it is according to the Webster's Dictionary. The root word perfect means being entirely without flaw or defect, satisfying all requirements, corresponding to ideal standards and abstract concepts, faithfully replicating the original. And that last one is probably the one I would stick to the most. We are trying so hard to replicate what we had before that we are literally dying for it. We look for it in our relationships. This is why men and women both have unrealistic expectations of each other. We look for it in our jobs. We look for it, I mean, everything, in everything. We want everything to be perfect, knowing that people operate these things. People make these things go, right? But yet and still we are requiring perfection from people, places, and things, and none of it is perfect. But why? Why? Because we imagine that somehow, some way, and this is the third definition, that people, places, and things, there's got to be some person, some place, something that can meet our idealistic standard and our abstract concept of what it means to be without defect or without flaw. And then whenever we do find that, we are oftentimes perplexed and traumatized by the fact that they don't measure up to our ideas. They don't measure up to what we thought they were supposed to measure up to. And it doesn't mean they're not good, or it doesn't mean that they're not close to as good as it's going to get. It means they're not perfect. They're not satisfying all. Let me emphasize that word. They're not satisfying all requirements. We want all our requirements met, no matter what. We want every single requirement that we have to be met. But here's the funny thing about this: while we're out chasing perfection, while we're out looking for everything without defect, we're looking for everything to align with our standards and concepts, right? We tell everything that is around us, you have to accept us the way we are, which to me is absolutely absurd. If you want perfection, you should want to be perfect. If you are looking for perfection, you yourself should be perfect. And you say, sincere, how is it you can say something like that, knowing what you just said? None of us is perfect. None of us is ever going to achieve perfection. None of us, because Christ was perfect. But here's the catch 22. He never required perfection of us. He knew we couldn't achieve it. He said the only way you can be made perfect is to abide in me. And I know what y'all about to say. It sounds like you're preaching. I am preaching a little bit. Because what we are chasing is unattainable. You're not going to find it in that man or in that woman. You are not going to find it in that job or in that career or in that business or in that amount of money in your bank. You are not going to find it by endlessly doing things that the world or you may think of on a regular basis. What you are going to find is an empty void. And what winds up happening is most of us try to fill it some way, somehow. And we go throughout our lives trying to fill this empty void with useless material, and to the point where we have no other choice to either accept what's going to make us perfect or reject it altogether. And say, hey, look, I'm going to just deal with the fact that I'll never be perfect. And this is just what life is. And I think the balance is somewhere in the middle. I'm not a big believer in balance because I'm a very, very black and white guy, but I have come to accept that in this life, there are some things that are going to be black. There are some things that are going to be black and white, and there are other things that are going to be shades of gray. And unfortunately for me, life as a whole is shades of gray. You can pick things from a black and white perspective, but there is always going to be a line in which you're going to have to tread in order to live this life. And I'm not talking about this balance between good and evil, because there ain't no balance between good and evil. There's not a yin and a yang. There's no little bit of good within evil, and there's not a little bit of evil within good. No, it's either, in that case, it's black and white. But because of the imperfection of who we are and the imperfection of this earth altogether, we have to accept and come to realize that in our pursuit of perfection, in our pursuit of trying to get to something that is unattainable, there are going to be black and whites. But here's the fun thing. Here's the fun thing. And here's where I'm going to preach to you guys a little bit. If you come to Christ, you can be guaranteed you'll be perfected. It may not be here on this earth. You're always going to face trials. You're always going to face tribulations. You're always going to have things you're going to have to overcome about yourself. There's always going to be things that you need to learn, and there's always going to be more depths that you need to reach. But you can be guaranteed that when this life is over, you will be perfect. You won't have to chase perfection anymore. Which leads me into a trail real quick. See, so many of us as people think this is it. We think this is our final destination. And for some, it may be because they won't choose to accept Christ, which, in my opinion, and the opinion of any Bible believing Christian, we know that this world is not our home. We are waiting for a world beyond this world. They think that everything that life has to offer is here. And if they don't get it here, they're never going to get it. Or, here's another thought. I need to get everything I can get here, and then when I get to the other side, I'll be set because I will have achieved so much greatness here on this earth. They will have no choice. God will have no other choice but to put me in a high position in the next life. When both of those two philosophies are off, you're going to go to a perfect God, a perfect, meaning, once again, let's go back to that Webster's Dictionary definition, meaning that he is entirely without flaws, fault, or defect. He is flawless. And tell him you deserve something? Read the book of Job. I just read it this morning in chapter 38. God questions Job and he says, have you made all this stuff? Can you call the C-SPAN? Can you do all the stuff that I've done? Tell me who made it. Tell me who can do it better. And the ultimate answer Job finds is nobody can. And in my mind, to a certain extent, I'm asking God, like, why would you ask Job those kind of questions? Why would you put Job on the spot like that when he was going through so much stuff? He was just venting. He was just angry. He was just going through. But here's the thing: Job had it all, and he lost it all. And what God was trying to help him to realize, like so many of us need to realize, including myself, that this is not the end. What we have here is not the end. What we obtain here and what we can get here is something that God allows us to have as blessings and rewards for our hard work, for our hard work, and for our diligence to Him. That's it. If you think that this place, this particular atmosphere, this particular earth is the end, you are sadly mistaken. Sadly mistaken. And if you don't come to Him, you might be in for a rude awakening. I don't have a heaven nor a hell to send you to, but I'm just saying, what would it hurt you to live a life the way the Bible instructed and find out that in the end, everybody that told you to live that way is wrong? Versus living a life the way you want to, and then in the end, finding out that everything everybody told you about the Bible was true. And now there's no way to go back and correct your mistakes. I opt for the first versus the latter. Chasing perfection here on this earth, getting back into what I was saying, chasing perfection here on this earth is us just going to lead to worry and a lot of unforeseen torture and torment. The Bible says this: come unto me, all who labor, and I will give you rest. In layman's terms, come to me, all who are worried and all who are burdened, and He will give you rest for your mind and your soul. In Matthew, I think it's either 6 or 7, don't quote me on this, but He talks about how God feeds the birds of the air, and he waters the grass on the ground and all that stuff, and they die all the time. They die off all the time. And God knows it all. How much more are, sorry guys, how much more are you than they? How much more are you precious to them than those birds, than that grass? He knows the very number of hairs on your head. They're all numbered. Numbered. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you think of how many hairs you have on your head. And for my bald men, think about how many hairs you had on your head before you went bald. Think about how much hair you have on your face for men. I mean, they are numbered. They're in the thousands, millions, probably. And you mean to tell me that we are worried about perfection, something that is unattainable for us? You mean to tell me that we are worried about holding to a standard that none of us can never reach? You mean to tell me that we are more worried about the thing that we cannot grasp. To me, that's completely foolish. So, in wrapping this up, what would you say is the theme for this? I would say a number of things, but I only give you three. I would say, look, stop living your life for everybody else, for everybody else's approval, for everybody else's attention. Stop living your life for that. And you say, how does that tie in with perfection? Well, we only want perfection so that we can gloat and tell everybody how perfect we are. I know I didn't go into that too deep because I didn't really want to get into that, but that's number one. Number two, don't worry about what's ahead. Live for today. And when I say don't worry about what's ahead, I'm not telling you not to plan and not to have an idea of what it is you want to do next. But when your whole life is spent trying to put things together, you're going to worry yourself literally to death. And last but not least, this is my most important point. Get in touch with the God that made you. He has a perfect plan for you. He has a perfect way you should follow, perfect steps you should take, and in the end is going to lead to your perfection. And though it may not look perfect to other people, remember you are not living for them. You are living for the one who made you. So stop looking for perfection in people, places, and things, and start looking to live the way God wants you to live. And that's all I really want to say. Anyways, guys, check out the Standard 81 podcast over there on TikTok. I've got plenty of videos up, as well as check out the Instagram at Sincere the Artist. And I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great day. God bless you all. Peace.